The place where I'm standing right now will give you an idea how Kargil battle was fought between India and Pakistan. These peaks behind me, my video journalist Bashir Loon will show you, were occupied by Pakistan in the winter of 1998. And then the battle started when shepherds noticed that there were people sitting on these peaks while they went there in these peaks. You can see on your screen, different peaks, these mountain peaks were occupied back then, and it was a daunting task to climb up there for the soldiers and to recapture all these peaks, including Batra Top, which my VJ is showing you right now, and following it is a small peak called Rhino Horn, then is India Gate, Tiger Hill, Trishul Hilltop, then critically point 5353. Important battles were fought around this. Multiple forces were engaged, be it the Indian Army, be it the Air Force, which pounded with its different aircrafts. Helicopters were used. There are stories in these mountain peaks of the valor and the courage and that was shown in this battlefield. This was completely a battleground. We can see also this is a Dras town which is heavily pounded with Pakistan shelling. Any movement that takes place on National Highway, because the motive was to occupy these peaks and shell heavily the National Highway, which is a lifeline from Kashmir to Ladakh, and to cut off that highway, the vantage point over there on the top was something which Pakistan used to its advantage. One was to critically make sure that the highway is cut off, critical supplies don't reach forces, but yes, multiple units of the army were swung into action, and it took them from May to July to reoccupy, to recapture actually these peaks. You can see still there is snowfall around these peaks, so this can give you an idea during May, how full of snow they would be. It was not an easy task for forces to manage to capture them. Several army soldiers lost their lives while battling through these peaks, and multiple teams were formed, and several of them have their own stories of courage. But yes, Kargil Vijay Diwas is one such occasion where these Jawans who laid down their lives for the nation are remembered every year. Their families come here, all those veterans who have been telling the story of how passionately the forces go into these mountain peaks and were ready for any kind of battle that was ahead of them, because it was cold, weather changes here every moment, and that is why this was not an easy battle for the Indian forces to fight here in Dras. I have with me Subedar Major Sanjay Kumar, who is a Paramveer Chakra awardee for his bravery that he displayed in Kargil during Kargil War. Sir, कुछ यादें होंगी आपकी आज? आपको याद होगा कि आपने मशकू वैली में जब जंग हुई थी, आसान नहीं था उस समय पे, क्या हुआ था तब, आपको क्या इंस्ट्रक्शन मिले थे?
सर, पहले सबसे बड़ी बात तो ये है कि आज हमारा जो कारगिल विजय दिवस का 24 ईयर हम सेलिब्रेट कर रहे हैं, तो उन सभी सैनिकों को जो यहाँ पे शहीद हुए उनको मैं श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करता हूँ। दूसरा, आज हम 24 ईयर में हम यहाँ इकट्ठे इसलिए हुए हैं कि जो हमने यहाँ पे हमारे जो जवानों ने जो श्रद्धांजलि दी है, उनको एक हम जिन्होंने सर्वोच्च निछावर किया, उनको हम एक श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित कर सके यहाँ। दूसरा, जो मशको वैली में जो टास्क हमें मिला था, हमने जो हमारी बटालियन थी पूरी उसमें इन्वॉल्व थी और हमने उसको बेखूबी निभाया है, क्योंकि हमारा जो ट्रेनिंग का स्तर था काफ़ी अच्छा था और जो हमारा लीडरशिप था वो उस काम को करवाने में सक्षम थे।
अब तो ये बताइए कि तब आप यहाँ पे थे, काफ़ी सारे सैनिकों ने अपनी जान भी खोई उस जंग में, तो अब याद होगा मशको काफ़ी आसान नहीं है। मैं वहाँ गया हूँ, पहाड़ियाँ हैं, चट्टानें हैं, बर्फ़ भी होती है काफ़ी सारी जगह पे, तो कितना मुश्किल था उस समय पे यहाँ पे जंग लड़ना, क्योंकि तब इतना इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी शायद नहीं था द्रास में।
हाँ, वो चीज़ें हैं, लेकिन देखिए आर्मी को इंस्पेक्टर जो भी रिक्वायरमेंट है उसकी इतनी ज़रूरत नहीं होती जितनी उसको ट्रेनिंग के जो मेन अम्युनिशन, हथियार और जो उसका एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से संबंधित जो आइटमें हैं, अगर वो उसको टाइम से मिलती हैं तो वो टास्क को पूरा करेगा। क्योंकि हम जो ट्रेनिंग करते हैं वो इसी बेसिस पे करते हैं कि हम कठिन से कठिन परिस्थिति में भी टास्क को कैसे पूरा कर सकते हैं। तो हमने भी वैसा किया, क्योंकि आप देखा होगा, और हमने तो दिन के ऑपरेशन किए हैं, तो दिन को ऑपरेशन करना कितना मुश्किल रहा होगा उस टाइम पे, क्योंकि दुश्मन हाइट पे था, हमने नीचे से जाना था। लेकिन हम लोग फिर भी गए क्योंकि हमारा जो ट्रेनिंग का जो स्तर था काफ़ी अच्छा था, और दूसरा जवानों में जोश इतना था कि कुछ भी है बोला वो करना है जो हमें टास्क मिला है। तो हम वो बोलते हैं ना, नाम नमक और निशान के लिए जीते हैं, तो वो चीज़ थी। तो जब टास्क मिल गया तो उसको पूरा करके वापस आना था, और वही हुआ।
तो ये सवाल भी ज़रूरी है क्योंकि तब मल्टीपल अप्रोच था, एयरफोर्स भी आया, आपने भी यहाँ से पुश किया, काफ़ी सारी जगहों से एक ही जगह पे आपको जाना पड़ा। तो कितना मुश्किल था क्योंकि दुश्मन ऊपर पहाड़ी पे बैठा था।
देखिए ऐसा है, उस टाइम पे एयरफोर्स आर्मी ने मिलकर जो है ऑपरेशन किए हैं, और सभी के सहयोग से ही हम कुछ कर पाते हैं। अगर मैं ये कहूँ कि मैं वहाँ जाके ये करके आ गया, तो ऐसा नहीं है। सबका सपोर्ट चाहिए, आरटी का चाहिए, उसके बाद अपना जो स्पोर्ट वेपन जो हमारे फायर बेस पे लगे उसका फायर सपोर्ट चाहिए, एयर का फायर सपोर्ट पहले वो हो रखा वहाँ पे हमारे जाने से पहले। तो तकरीबन क्या होता है कि जितना भी फायर सपोर्ट ये मिलता है, उससे दुश्मन का जो एक तो मोराल और उनका जो फैलाव है उसको कम कर देता जाता है। तो लास्ट में जो बचते हैं, बंकर बचते हैं, जिनको हमने इन्फेंट्री वालों ने क्लियर करना होता है, तो वो हमने किया है उस टाइम पे। तो यानी काफ़ी चीज़ें हेल्प मिलने के बाद, क्योंकि अगर डायरेक्ट करना, अगर आपने देखा होगा जो ये तोलोलिंग का जब फर्स्ट ऑपरेशन हुआ था, तो इसमें वही दिक्कत थी, ना एयर सपोर्ट था उस टाइम पे, ना ही आरटी का सपोर्ट था। तो कितनी कैजुअलिटी हुई, जब वो सब कुछ मिला तो एक दिन में क्लियर हो गया। तो किसी के साथ चलने से ही हमेशा यह टास्क को पूरा करना आसान हो जाता है। सबसे बड़ी बात, अकेला जाके नहीं कर सकता, लेकिन साथ कोई होगा जो टीम के साथ अगर काम करेगा तो आसानी से कर लेगा। तो वो हमने किया है।
I have with me an officer who is highly decorated and has overlooked the entire war. You were the chief of army staff, a highest rank, and you had a war on your shoulders. You know, how difficult was it then? Because they had intruded during the winter time, and then suddenly, forces had to be rushed in. Recall those memories of how it was back then, and soldiers are those, men who need to be motivated.
Look, yes, we were surprised, there is no doubt about it. And the intrusion, when it took place, nobody expected it. Particularly because political reason, we had signed Lahore Declaration with Pakistan, and also in these heights, we used to vacate, they used to vacate their posts, etc. And the worst was that they came in as jihadis, dressed as jihadis or mujahideen. So it took some time. We were surprised, but once we got hold of the information, then I give full credit to the Army, Navy and Air Force, all three services. I was Chairman Chiefs of Staff Committee also. That with the way we chased them out, really, the credit goes to the frontline soldiers. You are giving me the credit, I am not taking that credit, because I was involved in strategic planning. But if these boys who captured these peaks, if they hadn't done their job so well as you have seen it yourself now, it would have been more difficult. So full credit to the frontline soldiers, Army, Air Force, and the Navy. You don't see them here, but they also participated in the war. And it's a proof, I think, if any nation requires, that Indian armed forces have that capacity to rebound with greater vigor, even when they are surprised. And we are capable of, the capabilities today have improved a lot compared to 24 years ago. We had many challenges at that time, not just the terrain and the weather, but even in terms of our equipment, weapons, etc. Today we are much better off. So when I'm sitting here watching these things, I feel both proud of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and particularly feel proud of being amongst the soldiers who gave their lives, their kith and kin who are here, and the war heroes, they are here.
Right now India is at a very strong position right here. Back then, we soldiers were fighting from down to up. There was fire coming in from there. Bofors were part of the action, and then Air Force swung into action. We saw Navy also taking care of some ports and starting there. consolidated action at that time. How
Right.
difficult was it for a soldier to go up and climb up and then use the firepower?
Well, you see the terrain. I would say it is one of the most challenging situation for any soldier in the world, and in the history also. Uh, Only the Indian soldiers is capable of doing these kind of things. So it's not just the weapons and equipment, but in terms of the human resource capability that we have in the armed forces. It was very difficult. Initially we suffered a lot of casualties, I think more because we didn't have adequate information, you know. And once we got to know, when we had some information, Tololing battle, Tololing you can see from here, that was the first turning point. And once we captured Tololing, my own morale and my own, I got so assured by my own people that we are quite capable of now doing it. And thereafter, we just kept recapturing these. And the final turning point came when we captured Tiger Hill. So all those challenges that our boys faced, they overcame that. I think it's a great achievement.
My last brief question would be, we have now two fronts in Ladakh. Do you think that would matter? Because China is sitting on the one end and then you also have Kargil.
I think we have that capacity. And as I was telling you earlier, that we are much better equipped. Human resources as good as it was, even those days. But in terms of our equipment, weapons, surveillance devices, all these things the armed forces are transformed today in that. So we have that capacity to fight.
There are stories from each soldier who has fought this war, and with me is Brigadier retired Mr. Bajwa. Sir, you have been Umesh Singh Bawa. Sir, you have been here for a very long time. You have been coming here. How have the things changed? What was the situation back then, and how is the situation now?
See, during that time, it was a war situation. All the villages were deserted. There were hardly any, local population staying here. And now when I come here after 24 years, I find so much of change here, so much of development has taken place, so much of roads have been built, and all those peaks which were, vacant that time, and some of those peaks have been occupied by us to ensure that no such, infiltration takes place again.
You also you were a commanding officer back then. How passionate were the forces to go up there, recapture the land which the enemy had occupied?
See, in us, it was a sense of, betrayal. The enemy has betrayed us, and he was sitting on top, and we were down below. It was a very difficult situation for us, and we knew that, until unless we remove him from here, either he will kill us or we have to kill him. If we have to survive, we have to kill him and reoccupy the same space. So that it was a battle of survival. We want to survive ourselves. That's why they killed the enemy and pushed him away from here.
It must be very difficult back then, because facilities we are seeing right now with the forces, everything is there for them. It was cold, it's a desert kind of a place, and then enemy sitting on the top and firing at you with all his might. Motivation of soldier plays an important role. As a CEO of that time, how important was it to motivate the forces to go there?
Yeah, see, motivation of the men is most important thing. It is the most battle winning factor, most important battle winning factor in fact, and to motivate these young soldiers, I mean, it's, to give their lives, it's really not an easy job. And what I told them was, you see, this opportunity when you have donned a uniform comes once in a lifetime, and today is the day that we can either win and become part of history, or if we don't perform well, we'll be doomed in the history of our unit. So this is the time. Let's not miss it, and do our best and achieve our aim and the task given to us.
In the battlefield of Kargil, there was one line which echoed throughout the war, and after that also. It was a line called Ye Dil Mange More by Captain Vikram Batra. With me is his brother today here on the peaks of Kargil. Returning back here, there might be some memories of your brother, who was fighting here. Do you recall that time when he was fighting here?
Yes, I was just 24-year-old, when the Kargil War had happened, and since we knew that Vikram is also fighting the battle along with his battalion, most of the times we were glued to the televisions. And one of the fondest memory I remember is that when he captured the first peak and when he undertook the mission of point 5140, which is right across here, and he proclaimed the Ye Dil Mange More, which caught the fancy of the Indian people, right, and became a famous punchline. His victory signal, of course, was Ye Dil Mange More, but I remember when he was down on the base camp, he said his biggest victory was that he went up with 6 people and came back with 6 people. Right, so that's one of the fondest memory, because at the young age of 24, really coming out with that kind of a statement, it speaks volumes about the leadership, what it displayed in the battlefield. And second, of course, it was 2nd of July, the front page of the Times of India, where Vikram was displaying the captured enemy ammunition which he had captured from 5140. And it was roughly around close to 8:30 in the morning, and when I woke up and I opened the Times of India front page, and I saw a young bearded guy. And believe me, it took me a little while to recognize that he's Vikram, right? And then, of course, we switched on the TV and we were looking at, he was all around in the TV explaining the success of his mission. These are some of the fondest memories. Other than that, of course, a few letters which were written by him while he was fighting the battle. And the first letter written on 16th of June, which was exactly 3 days prior to when he went up for his first mission. Second letter, of course, which was very, very important letter, written on 23rd of June, because he conveyed this message of Ye Dil Mange More post capturing 5140 on 20th of June, early morning hours at 4 o'clock. So 23rd June letter was clearly mentioning that how he undertook this mission by himself, and they succeeded in it. And he got a lot of congratulatory calls from the Chief of the Army Staff, the Director General Military Operations, Adjutant General, and all other senior officials of the Army, right from the Ministry of Defence and all those people. These are some of the fondest memories, because post he was in the war, I unfortunately never got a chance to speak to him.